Welcome to another podcast series of ISCA Vietnam. Today, having with us is Rob Kurt from Kurt Integration. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Stephen. Thank you.
All right. Perhaps you want to tell the audience here a little bit about your background, your journey in Vietnam, and how Kurt Integration come into place.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, yes, as you say, I'm the founder of Co-Integration. Follows 15 years working in post-merger integration, another 5 years or so earlier career spent at places like IBM and Capgemini. And yeah, Co-Integration effectively is working for mid-size acquisitions, that mainly between 20 and 150 people, to help in that really messy phase after the deal is closed to ensure that the value has realized.
All right. So when you came to Vietnam 2 years ago, right, and to now, what do you see in Vietnam? How's the merger and acquisition in Vietnam look like? What did the industry look like? Give us a little bit of insight.
Yeah, it's a fascinating market. I think there's so much happening here. There's so much energy in the cities, especially here in Ho Chi Minh City and in Hanoi, of course. But there's so much happening here, and it's wonderful to see opportunities on every street, effectively, and in every office. I think there's so much opportunity for consolidation going forwards in pretty much every industry. And one thing that I've really enjoyed seeing, looking at some of the more macro statistics, is the percentage of Vietnamese money going into M&A rather than necessarily all being external money. So I think in 2024, the percentage of domestic money going into deals was 29%. So which is about double the trend over the prior years. So that shows me that there's a market here that's ready effectively to invest, to grow inorganically, and then also to potentially even look overseas and look at making acquisitions overseas as well in the years ahead. So it's early days still, but with that comes opportunity, and I certainly see lots of potential here in the years ahead.
So what sort of sectors that you think that the M&A in Vietnam is going on right now? Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, it's a great question, and certainly from my background, I'm sector agnostic. Is the phrase we tend to use. I will work in any sector, and so I see opportunities in all of them. But there are certainly some sectors that there's more movement than others, even though no sector should think that they shouldn't be appropriate for M&A, because it can exist in just about every type of business you can think of. But certainly education, healthcare, and looking at logistics and infrastructure as well. I think there's lots of opportunity here as the country gets richer year on year and has a requirement for more kind of global standards of services, shall we say. Then certainly, healthcare is one that I'm particularly, interested in, and are watching closely to see some consolidation and growth opportunities when perhaps two domestic companies may come together and be able to widen their offering and have their brand more visible across the country.
So as Kurt Integration is more focused on integration itself, right?
Yeah.
But usually we talk about M&A. We heard a lot about pre-deal, valuation, due diligence, but hardly we mention about the after M&A, right? So tell us a little bit about why integration is a blind spot for many advisors, right? A lot of them are doing deals, but after that they just finish closing the deal, and after that no one knows what happened.
Yeah, it's a really great point. And typically, as you say, when people think of M&A, they think of closing the deal, so completing the due diligence, and even before that, finding an appropriate target, securing financing. So all of that's very, very useful, of course. But then, if it's not followed through, and the integration in whatever form that consists of is a success, then the overall thing was a failure and a waste of time. And roughly 70% of deals don't reach the value that was desired in the initial investment case globally. And that hasn't really changed a lot over decades now. That percentage has stayed fairly static. So I've worked in post-merger integration for 15 years, and there's absolutely, value in considering that aspect early and very early, and certainly looking at finance professionals that may be advisors or in the completing due diligence or in audit or tax diligence, however it may be. There's certainly value in ensuring that that knowledge doesn't leave the room completely when the deal is closed, the ink's dry, and the deal team leaves. So I certainly think for those professionals that are involved in the early stage, it offers great value to clients to actually ask them what's happening next. Have you considered integration? Because a lot of time people try and deliver that off the corner of their desk or give it to someone as a challenge, as a stretch target, something that they may not have done before without a structure in place. So yeah, integration for me is M&A. In my role, I would take the diligence documents and the early deal rationale, strategic documents, and assess them to put a plan together with the client to actually ensure that they're able to deliver going forwards on and achieve what they wanted to achieve. So yes, from a finance point of view, lots of opportunity to ensure that, as I say, that the knowledge doesn't leave the room when the deal's closed.
So as an advisor, your value doesn't start with the transaction, right? So raising the right question about what happened next would be the most important part
Yeah, 100%.
Of your support, right? So leading to that for internal financial leaders, right?
Yeah.
So the people working within, the CFO, the finance manager, the controller, right? Tell us a little bit of a perspective integration in terms of for the people that are inside the firm when you do integration.
Yeah, it's a great question, and certainly not all of these people are often involved heavily at the deal phase. The CFO, of course, will be, but some of the other financial leads may not be involved at the deal phase, but they will be going forwards and will be expected to complete forecasts and look at financial planning and everything around synergies, often across departments that they don't have a lot of visibility with on a day-to-day basis. Every functional area of the business is affected by an integration. And often it's time critical. And often the two companies may not be two or more. I've worked on deals with kind of 5 or 6 companies interdependently working to become one at any given time. And during that phase, the finance professionals have to reach out and work with all of those functional areas. So typically, I would work with the client to put together a number of work streams that may not align exactly to the day-to-day structure of the org chart within the business, but what's right for a short period within the team. So for any finance professionals within the company, especially if they haven't had the continuity from the deal phase, I would strongly recommend speaking up, understanding what the targets are for the deal, for synergies, for achieving either cost or revenue synergies, and where they can help and add some guidance going forwards to support the overall ambition and targets for the deal.
Yeah, so as a chartered accountant, right, we were trying to look at those numbers and figures. But most importantly, when I hear your story, I think leadership is something that's very important when integration happens, right? How do we manage the expectation, and how do we, after we merge, how do we work with leaders from both sides and make it happen? So you think, how are your view about leadership?
Yeah, so it's another great question. I think leadership is fundamental. It comes from the top, and it ensures good leadership, strong leadership within an integration scenario always enables the layer below to deliver. So, setting accountability and expectations, but then allowing those below to thrive. So I'll always work with the client to get between 10 and 12 work streams together, depending on the structure that they need, and ensuring that each of those have a seat at the table and an equal opportunity to present what it is that success means to them within the deal, and then map the dependencies across them. So, specifically from a finance point of view, there may be some synergy opportunities. There may be some costs that are directly linked to success within the integration project. It may be that some areas are to integrate, such as back office areas, payroll, for example, whereas front office sales teams may stay independent. Branding may stay completely independent. So these are small examples, but certainly, for everybody to understand the aims and the ambition of what success looks like within the deal, and then in order to set a plan up that can help to deliver that and ensure that if anybody has a business case for some investment, that they know where to go to, and the finance team can put aside some cost centres or purchase orders or whatever it may be. All of these things will come into it, and it's important that the integration team speak as one voice. The team may only be spun up for 2 or 3, 4 months, but they should feel like a team and a really strong cross-functional team, and finance have a really strong part to play in that, along with one or two other functional areas to help to drive that forwards on behalf of the steering committee, the overall deal sponsor. So yes, going back to your question, certainly strong leadership and allowing those below to have a remit and to know what that remit is, it certainly enables success.
I read into your blog online, right? You talk about a steering committee looking for a cleaning lady. You talk about a wallpaper, right?
Yes.
So leadership is not always just the talk about big stuff, but the little stuff that they observe, right?
Yeah.
That how this little thing, the inside from a cleaning lady, can change perspective when you do acquiring and integration, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's thank you for bringing that example up. It's one of my favourite stories from anecdotes almost from over the years where the head of the steering committee took advice from the cleaner in how the kitchen should be refurbished, and it turns out that in that scenario the team that were involved hadn't reached out to that level, but the steerco lead didn't have an ego and wanted to speak to the person who was closest to the solution in order to make the right decision going forwards. And in any kind of business project, there's moving parts. In an integration scenario, there's a lot more moving parts than in most instances. You've got different stakeholders that may have different ideas of what success looks like. For some, there may be some resistance to change or wanting to keep things as stable as they are. So it's a case of bringing all of those things together, but certainly, true leadership knows who to take advice from, and in that scenario, in that blog post you mentioned, the advice came from the cleaner, and it was great advice too.
Okay. Integration isn't the cleanup, right? It's where finance leads to under pressure and create a long-term value.
Yes.
So to sum up what we just said, right? It's about value, the long-lasting, and the insight that you see from the company that you're acquiring and integrating, right?
Yes.
So leading to that, so the final thought for our audience today, what is a formula for integration?
A formula for integration. Well, firstly, every deal is different. So the value drivers are always different. The personalities are different. I often describe it like a snowflake. If you look under the microscope, every snowflake is different. You can have 2 deals that might look similar on paper that end up being completely different due to the personalities involved or potentially the future of the industry. So yes, typically a formula for success involves strong leadership. It involves aligning behind a plan, clear communication, and ensuring that momentum comes in early. So the latest I ever worked on a deal was 8 months after it closed, and there's still sometimes maybe an opportunity to salvage, recover in that scenario. but ideally, the integration will be considered before the deal team leave the room. People from the target business should be engaged as early as is kind of legally possible. And there are always some people from the target that are involved and information shared during the due diligence phase, but certainly clear communication and open honesty really goes a long way, and speaking to each other, which is why 5 of the 6 solutions that I built within co-integration involve workshops, because workshops are absolutely key to drive that decision making and ensure that everybody is, all of the key stakeholders are aligned behind vision. Not everybody attends steering committees, and if you have these kind of decisions made in other forums or behind closed doors, then there's going to be miscommunications left, right, and centre, basically. So certainly, the value in a clear plan, workshops, and being ready for when things go wrong.
All right, so to sum up, the formula of integration success is discipline, leadership, and good planning. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much for your sharing.